Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is June 6th, 2024. You are listening and watching the Daily AI Show live. And today we're going to be talking about the top 5 AI tools that are currently changing our lives. And for that, we have a few of us here. We got Junmi, Beth, Andy, Robert's here, and I'm Brian. We'll see if Carl or Aaron are able to join as well. But the goal of this show really is to just sort of talk about, individually what we're using. I would imagine there's a bit of overlap. But since we're all doing different jobs, we're at different parts of our career. I think there'll be some interesting insights here as we do it. And we did a show similar to this. I want to say at the end of last year. I feel like it was maybe late 2023, where we were talking about tools and stuff. And it'll be interesting to see and kind of think about, what's changed. Are we still using the same tools? Have we abandoned some? Have some gotten absorbed by other big players? Ethan Mollick was just talking about that in his newsletter today, talking about how some things are no longer necessary, or some of you are, I would have to go back and look at it, but he was talking about Runway, will Runway's abilities and features be absorbed by OpenAI and Gemini and Google and stuff? And that's just one example, obviously. So that's the idea of the show today. Obviously, I think what would be probably easiest, because we don't necessarily do round robin, is I think it'd be cool to hear what everybody's like sort of 5 are, and then let's talk about how they work together. And then maybe at the end of this, we can come to a consensus of like a collaborated top 5 of the kind of tools we think. And I don't know if it makes sense to start with one that may be on everybody's list. I mean, I suppose it might not be, but when I think about ChatGPT and what it offers, I kind of felt like, oh, I could have just done an entire show on the top 5 ways I use ChatGPT, and 5 honestly would not have been enough. And so I almost feel like it's for me at least, to say that ChatGPT is one of the 5 tools I use is like the greatest understatement of understatements, because I use it in so many different ways. And I don't know, I maybe as a starting point, does it show up on everybody else's list? Is ChatGPT on everybody else's list? I'm just curious.
It's on mine. I think so. It's the go-to, right?
It's the top one on my list. I would say it's the number one. Why? Because it's not just one tool.
Right.
You get access to the ChatGPT store, which is this collection of pre-prompted service assistants. And there's a wide range. Almost anything that you want to do, it's in there. So it's not you confronted by a chat message box and you having to figure out how to prompt your way into an output. You go to the store, you do a search, up pop multiple ones that are ranked according to the number of users. And it's a beautiful thing. You can find how to do almost anything with ChatGPT. So a number of other things on my list do things that can also be done by custom GPTs within ChatGPT.
Can we try to do a different take on this? For example, ChatGPT has several functionalities, as you mentioned, Andy, and there's some tools out there that are one-trick ponies that are like Sumo, that just does audio, right, or music. There's Midjourney that just does images, and I think that ChatGPT does images, but not very well, in my opinion. So I wonder and that's what I would if I were to push back. Not that I'm going to yet, but on the ChatGPT, because I agree it's my top 5. I don't know if it does everything great. Like if I were to put ChatGPT in my top 5, it's the option spacebar. That's what makes it so awesome for me. Like I'm in the middle of I was actually just a few minutes ago, I got a lead and the person put their zip code instead of city. I'm like, ugh. And so I said, what's the zip code? And what's the city that this zip code is related to? Just real quickly, boom, as I'm typing, it did it. No, I want the closest big city. Oh, it's Austin. Like it was Cedar Park was the city. And then I said, well, that's not relevant to me. I don't know where that is. So Austin's only 20 minutes away. So I could do that faster with spacebar option than I could with Google search.
Right.
So that makes that particular powerhouse of ChatGPT like my go-to for almost everything. So yeah.
ChatGPT is on my list, but it dropped down. It's not my top.
Oh, cool.
Yep. It's my 4th.
Oh,
I use I use Perplexity much more than ChatGPT, but we're not talking about Perplexity yet. We're just talking about ChatGPT. But I find I find myself going to other tools because I do feel they are better at what I want them to do. ChatGPT I
Pro?
use for custom GPT.
Do you have Pro Perplexity?
I do have Pro
Yes,
Perplexity.
that's probably what's hindering me is I can't do pages and I don't have the amount of pro uses. I'm gonna have to pull the trigger.
Okay, but before we sing the praises of my favorite, go ahead, continue to sing your ChatGPT praises because
Well,
it definitely does need to be praised.
I don't want to, because there's a lot to cover in this show, so I don't want to rehash what was already said. But I agree with, or really, Robert, I think too, is like it's my multi-tool. It doesn't mean it's the best tool, but a small screwdriver on a multi-tool on a keychain is still a small screwdriver on a keychain, and there's a lot of value in that being very close, very good. It does its job most of the time. I mean, we know there's limitations and stuff, but the tool is a fantastic, ready to use tool. Yes, like 2 days ago, there's some downtime. There's some downtimes where it was just not working. It does fail at times. It definitely makes me bang my head against the desk some days. But I would say if I was just to average it out over the last year and a half, and really let's just say 2024, it has been a very, very reliable tool. And I just cannot even put into words or numbers how many hours it has saved me or how it has overall increased my productivity just in my job. Now we also use it for this show, which is sort of a second job. It's becoming more and more of a second job for sure as we grow. But I mean, I use it. Good God, I use ChatGPT or some function of it, and I'll even throw in the playground. So I'll throw the playground in there too. So we're sort of getting into the API. Over 2 hours a day at least, if I was just to like compress time and say out of an 8-hour work or 10-hour day, I think I'm using ChatGPT, like literally using the tool over 2 hours. It could be much higher than that, but I think that's a low bar. That's just me and what I'm using it for. But I get what you're saying, Beth, and Robert, which is there are other tools out here, and hopefully we're going to talk about some of these that are better. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Midjourney is a better image tool than ChatGPT DALL-E 3 is at this point. And there's a lot of reasons to use it, and there's also a lot of reasons why I would just need a very quick photo from ChatGPT, and that's fine. Again, going back to that.
So, Carl, what would you put ChatGPT in your list of 5 if we're doing that right now?
Probably 3,
Really?
but I think more so like personal use. But I think it's raising back in ranks because of the option space. That is the best thing, and I feel once we all get voice and vision, that thing's not turning off. I was like, I will have that thing on and I'll be like, hey, I need you to do this.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
it won't be like, it'll be number one by long shot.
That's true sci-fi. That's when you get to be like, this is what I've always wanted. You're
Yes,
talking to like Star Trek computer,
I will not turn that off. So
Yeah.
I just think eventually it'll go back to one once that thing. And I do use it quite a bit on my phone. Like I actually go do chats, especially when I'm thinking out projects and stuff. So that's kind of where it's up for me.
A reflection of ChatGPT's versatility is I have multiple windows on my desktop, and I have many, many tabs open. I have a little cluster of tabs on the right, maybe 5 of them together, which are different custom GPTs that I use frequently.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Ones that you've built or ones that you found in the store?
Ones that I found in the store.
Oh, very cool.
If you could shortcut in your desktop your custom GPT, that would be a crazy feature, because option J, option 1, I want to talk to this GPT. Option 2, I want to talk. That would be.
Well, keep in mind that somebody sent me a custom GPT, and I clicked on it on an email, and it opened up in the desktop version of GPT. So that is pretty fun too. So now it's inside my window. I don't have to go to a browser. In case anybody didn't know what we're talking about, Option spacebar is basically the hotkey to bring up the desktop version of ChatGPT. So that's what that
on Mac.
on
The
Mac.
Windows
Yeah,
version
only on
does
Mac.
not exist.
on Mac with silicon with Mac.
Yes,
Right.
yes, that's right.
You
Not-
have M1 chip, right, Andy?
Yeah,
M1
M1 chip.
I'm speaking from a place of privilege.
Yes, very
Mac user.
first world
I-
problem for sure.
So
I
custom
definitely get that.
custom GPTs are an amazing resource. I've built custom GPTs myself, and I use them. I use the ones that I built infrequently, but the thing that's awesome is that there are much better programmers of custom GPTs out there than I am,
Yeah.
and they've done a great job. And as I mentioned before, if you just do a search for the type of function that you're looking for in the custom GPT set, they're going to pop up, and one of the top listings is going to have thousands of users. And so just pick that one and try it.
I'm
and
the
see how
exact
it works.
opposite, Andy. I use my own custom GPTs all the time. Like I've probably built, I mean, I guess at this point I've built over 50 of them. And I would say I use 20 plus of my own custom GPTs weekly. Easily.
Wow.
Because
Wow.
I find it faster to create the solution that I need and be repeatable,
Mhm.
and I can just go in and do it. I also have built custom GPTs that build custom GPTs. So that's the easier thing. Like I don't use the builder from ChatGPT. I know what I want. I know what I want my markdown method to look like. I know what I want to be there or not. So probably along the way, I was like, this is ridiculous. Why am I spending all this time rebuilding and recreating the wheel? So I just create a custom GPT who gets me probably 80% of the way there for creating a brand new custom GPT, and I start from there.
I see that because you're very practiced at doing professional workflows in custom GPTs.
Yeah.
And so you've built these things for your own workflows. Well, I'm a little more scattered than that, right? I'm
Yeah.
looking for conversation with ChatGPT, but I want to make sure that the conversation that I have is informed by a knowledge base that somebody else has put in there, along with examples and everything else that are unique to that particular kind of pursuit or inquiry, direction.
So
So I want to make one comment.
We can probably talk about ChatGPT. Anybody else want to say anything like ChatGPT? Because I know there's so many other tools.
Yeah,
to talk
well,
about.
I want to say one more thing about this, and then we obviously we have 4 other tools to talk about. But let's not forget the ChatGPT's biggest, like why I put it as number 1 is APIs. So I'm not using GPTs. I'm skipping past that hypothetically because we're building tools for our clients, and having API access allows us to put it inside of a very long workflow that's much more It's like 5 GPTs in a workflow, hypothetically, right? That has an end goal. So that's where you can't compete with that. It makes it much more usable, that in Anthropic. So anyway, sorry. What's Everest number 2?
Well, before we do that, I'm just really curious because I do want to know that, but I'm just curious. So I'm saying it's number 1 for me. Beth says it's number 4. Was it 4 or 3? 4. Carl, you said number 3, but could be a number 1. Andy says number 1. Jimmy, you haven't told us. Robert says
number
1.
1.
Jimmy says 1 as
Yeah.
well. Okay.
Yeah, my top 5 is essentially a list of amount used. So how much time I spend in each tool.
What's number 2 for you, Jimmy?
Perplexity.
Perplexity. Okay.
Yeah,
So
specifically because of this this show. So I'm immediately, it's like, oh, research time, boom, Perplexity. That's how I jump off and go down the rabbit hole of research and things like that.
So Perplexity is on my list as well. Carl, is Perplexity on your list?
Yes, it is probably 2.
And what about you, Robert?
It's probably 4.
4.
And
Okay,
not
but
because
of
its
you threw up a 2
capability.
or a 1. A number 2.
Number 1. Yeah, and let me add that Perplexity has recently added this Taco graphic visualization edition. So now when you do a query, it pops up with some really beautiful infographics that are relevant to the research that you're doing, which is just advancing the specialness of Perplexity when it comes to research.
And who wants to, like, maybe Beth, do you want to talk about Pages? Because like that is a really cool new feature of Perplexity that I think might actually push me to a pro account. What do you want to talk about that at all?
I can talk about Pages, although I think Carl probably does more with Pages right now. We are looking at it for the show. We think it's a great way to share the research that we do for the show, and we'll let you know when you can go look at our pages. But Pages is kind of coming after. Pages is kind of unique. So it has some Wikipedia elements because when you're doing some research, you can then turn it into a page that you can make public. So it includes the sources. It will write the sections for you, and then you can edit them. Like, it's a really smooth workflow if you are putting together some information for a course, or some information for a show, or some information because you want to do research that you want to share. The other thing about Pages is that they're starting to get ranked because they're such high quality pieces of information. So
you mean in Google search, right?
Right.
I mean in Google search, which is also a little like, it came out recently that Perplexity uses Google search to get the information. So
And then ranks.
it's a little like, okay, what does that mean? Where everybody's looking at like, okay, Spider-Man. I have to say, what I use Perplexity for even more than that is the voice assistant. I like the voice assistant better because it functions like a walkie-talkie.
First
And
off,
as long as I have my finger on the mic button, it will not cut me off.
Yes.
iOS ChatGPT will cut me off. Like, there's just it's such a better experience.
Yeah, I think push to talk is a better model for interaction and doesn't put so much of a burden on the AI to try to figure out when your pause is the end of your transmission.
ChatGPT does have that functionality, though. You can hold it down to keep it from
You
interrupting
can.
Yeah.
But it will
I
cut
didn't
you
know
off.
Perplexity has that.
I'm assuming the reason why they're going down this path is for more training, because eventually it should learn from your cadence, right? It's like, oh, I know they're pausing for dramatic effect, so I'm not going to cut them off yet. But
Although
yeah,
in the actual app, there, like, I actually turned it on to train, and you could see it voice in training, or you turn it off, it's not there. So have a look at that too, because I saw that. And for those who have it, I think they just released, you can do it while, because remember, the app has to be on. Now the app doesn't have to be on at all.
Right.
It's now in the background. You just keep talking even while other apps are open. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah,
So you guys
and I think-
mentioned research, and I just wanted to point this out that, so that our users can hear, our listeners can hear, like, so some of the back behind the scenes of how we interact, put the show on. It takes a lot of work. It takes all of us to do it. I'm in charge right now of putting the shows together, like what's coming up in the next couple of days. However, the ideas come collectively from the group. We have a Slack channel for that. Well, I need to go from the idea. Andy posts something from an idea, and he's like, this is an interesting idea. I think this could be a show topic. Okay, so now I have to look at that inside of Slack and say, okay, what do I think I can build a show out of that? So let's just say I say yes. More times than not, the way I handle it right now is I will take that idea from Andy, and maybe there's a clip or an article that he offered. I will go to Perplexity first. I will allow Perplexity to do a bit of research on that because I know those are going to be citations. Then what I do is I take that copied link, I go into ChatGPT, where I built a custom GPT that will then take it and put it in the correct format that then needs to go onto LinkedIn. That's the first place it's going to go. So I don't know about anybody else, but I agree on the research side of it. I'd actually, not always, but I actually usually get a better result if I start in Perplexity and I use that as the feeder information for ChatGPT, and then I get a better result. And it really doesn't take much longer to do it, because I find that I'm fumbling around in ChatGPT and I'm like, no, that's not what I meant, or whatever. And this kind of cuts out that middleman a little bit. Or I guess you're putting a middleman in, but it cuts out a lot of back and forth. So
so Brian, have you found, like, because there's Perplexity is purely, it goes into the search right away. I find sometimes with ChatGPT, I need to prompt it to actually do an online search. Because sometimes I'm like, I need you to do an online search. It'll come back with its pre-trained data. I'm like, no. I need you to actually, because it's, unless it's super obvious, like, hey, what was the score of the hockey game yesterday?
Right.
Then it'll search. But if you're trying to do something, it won't search. So I think
that's a good call.
You have to call it out. So it'd be interesting to see if there is technically a real search kind of feature in there that you could get it to get going. So
There is, and by the way,
guidance right now
browsing
is
for ChatGPT is amazing compared to just like 4 weeks ago. I mean, it's
Oh,
so
100,
Yes.
yeah.
much better. But that's a good call out, Carl, because OpenAI themselves say that in their directions is be specific about what you want to happen.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
you're absolutely right. If I wanted to browse, I always say use your browsing feature. That's in my prompt. Because I'm telling it exactly what you just said is go out and do the search here. I'm expecting you to go find 5 sources for this, and I want you to cite them. I'm specific about that. It's a little extra, in the prompt, but you are going to get better results back.
Yeah.
Okay, quick, because I want to move on to the next tool, but there's so much about Perplexity that I just love. There is a Chrome plugin, and you can have conversations with Perplexity on the page that you're on
That's right.
when you're
Yeah.
searching the web. There is also an ability to focus. So if I only want to see academic papers, it's not perfect, but it's giving me more paper responses. I can also just interact with whatever I've chosen as my large language model. So I can just use Claude, or I can just use GPT-4o because it's using those APIs. It can also just search Reddit. So like if you want to figure out like some sort of zeitgeist thing that's kind of like Twitter, but also not, you can just search that. There's just so much that you can do. And
are these all pro features or a
these
mix of
are all
and-
pro features? Yes.
all pro features?
no,
okay.
But
you can
pro
do
is
the
$20.
The Chrome is free. You could do the Chrome for free because I use it.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. For those who are listening to, Perplexity allows you. This is why I don't. Even with Claude coming to Canada, I was able to use Claude, Opus, their top model in Perplexity. So, and actually, when I'm testing, their model is actually not bad for responses. So, GPT-4o, and they came out pretty quick with GPT-4o in as a model that you can choose. So
Right.
it's
Yes.
pretty quick that you can choose
think it was
that.
a
Opus,
day or two.
Llama, right?
Crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. You mentioned Claude. I'm curious because we need to move on to the next ones.
Right.
It is Claude on anybody or
Yeah,
everybody?
Claude's my number 2.
Number 2?
Yeah, and only again, we going back to accessibility. I'm probably gonna have to move up Perplexity. It was on my list, but it was 5 just because I don't have access, and it's not it takes me having to go out of my ecosystem into another one. And so I have back to Andy's point, I have tab number 1 is ChatGPT, tab number 2 is Anthropic, tab number 3 is Google Gemini. I know. I use that when I'm trying to see if there's a better solution, because usually it's like my third option. But I've gotten to where I flip-flop between Anthropic and GPT back and forth, and I find Anthropic does a better job of creating content, creating emails, summarizing minutes. It's just the creating content, I like it better. It speaks better. So
I agree with that.
I use Claude, but I use it in the console. So I'm not using the chat interface in the front. I'm playing with some things in the back. It'll write the prompts for you. And that's often how I use it. Like, okay, this is what I want to do. How do you write a prompt for that?
Mhm.
And then test how those things are, how successful those things are.
If
Yeah,
I were to
I
rank,
use it go ahead.
go ahead, Jimmy, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I kind of use it like Robert. Claude, Gemini, all the other frontier models are backups or test against for chat and OpenAI. So if I don't like what I'm getting out of ChatGPT, then I'll try it in the other ones. But I kind of categorize all the frontier or AIs in one package in that sense, anyways.
I wanted to share this really quick because this came from Ethan Mollick's newsletter today, and I'm putting it on the screen. But really, here's the gist of it. He shares the whole snapshot of this conversation with Claude, and I do think this shows where Claude is different. Than you would not get this answer in ChatGPT. But basically, what he does is he puts in 2 words: garlic bread. So Claude does its best to start responding back to him and ask him, "Yeah, this is how you make garlic bread." And then basically, he has a bunch of negative comments, meaning like, not an overview. And Claude tries again. And he's like, not an opinion. Then he goes, not a fact, not a poem, not a question. So what's good about this is watching the reasoning of Claude come back. And basically Claude comes back and it's like, well, it's quite a curious conundrum we find ourselves in here. Here I am, an AI assistant, ready and willing to wax poetic about the wonders of garlic bread, yet my human companion seems determined to stump me at every turn, right? So it's like this fun interaction. So basically it gets to the end of the conversation and it says, in any case, I stand ready to meet your challenge, to engage with you on this garlic bread fueled adventure, come what may. And it has a little bit more. Ethan puts in garlic bread. And then not ChatGPT. Claude says, nods solemnly, garlic bread. Indeed. Takes a moment to collect thoughts. We've explored the depths of this savory subject, delving into this content, and it goes on. And then at the end, it ends with garlic bread, my friend. It's enough. It's everything.
Dude, that is absolutely brilliant. That is brilliant.
That is a different level of communication. That's a different level of creativity than you're going to find, in my opinion, with ChatGPT. So when you need something that's at that level, when you are trying to have a creative interaction, me personally, I'm going to not even try with ChatGPT. I'm going to start with Claude because I definitely believe it's going to be a better interaction.
I'm going to say that in my mind, I turn to Claude when I'm trying to be creative. And ChatGPT when I'm trying to, really have a reasoning companion dialogue, with something very different.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to go around the horn really quick. Jimmy, was Claude on your list?
No, not at all. Because I don't use it enough for day to day.
Make the top 5. Beth, was it on your list?
Yes, 5.
It was number 5. Carl?
No, and I only used it in Perplexity, so I guess it would be folded in Perplexity.
Andy, it was on yours, right?
It's not in my top 5, but it is one that I use.
And Robert with a shock face. Which one was it for you, Robert?
It was 2.
2. Okay, so ChatGPT and then Claude for you.
Yeah, I mean, again, we have different jobs and different workflows. So
right,
that's kind of probably why it's
Yeah, I think that's the great thing about this show. Is like that's exactly it. And Andy, you kind of nailed it too. Like you're right, Andy. I am very process driven in the job that I have to do, and it's usually breaking big tasks down into smaller subtasks and then figuring out where AI fits in. And so, yeah, I do spend a lot of my time in custom GPTs because you're right. Like for me, I will write a custom GPT that solves one pain point for a salesperson, such as getting into like an annual report and making that, and I will immediately do an to the next custom GPT, which is help me book a meeting. So I'll take, in my example from yesterday with a client, I take a huge Adidas annual report that's super 50 pages long. And I want to distill that down into the things that a sales rep is going to care about and immediately call the next ChatGPT in that thread to keep running on that process. So you're right. Like that for me, that's like where my head is like 90% of the day, it seems like. And the show too. So much of it is process driven, repeat, new shows, new stuff. Okay. So we're past some of the bigger players here. So with the next 15 or so minutes, let's get into what else is on the list. I'm really excited about this because I think we got past sort of the big ones. Now let's figure out what everybody else is using. So I don't even know where to start. Like Jumi, you're first.
I got a number 3. Firecut. Bet you none of you ever used Firecut at all.
I don't know what it is.
So Firecut is a extension or plugin for Adobe Premiere. And essentially it's a package of AI-based tools for post-processing or post-editing of post-production of a video, right? And so they've got things in there like multicam auto editor. They got things in there like auto caption, chapter breaks. They just added a highlight clip function, which I haven't got a chance to try out, but I'm hoping that'll work out where it'll pull out clips from your long form video for short form, that whole repurposing thing. There's a find B-roll feature. So these are all these tools that I use, or this package of tools when it comes to producing the show. And so I'm in there every day. So that I would put on my, that's why it's my number 3.
And for anybody just curious, like, not Robert, sorry, Jimmy, you do a lot of our video editing. You really do handle that for the show. I know you also do that in your professional, but when you guys are seeing the awesome, shorts and things like that go out on TikTok and YouTube, so much of that is you, Jimmy, and you're like, thank God we have you for being able to do that. So it's cool to hear the kind of tools you're using to help produce this video podcast and get it out to the masses. I want to switch right over to Robert. Robert, are you good on time? Do you have to jump? And if so, let's get your 5. You're on mute.
You're mute.
Yes, I do have to jump. My 5 is, I think we've already talked about them. It's Anthropic. It's GPT, Anthropic, Gemini, and then Midjourney, because I like to do lots of images for my presentations. So that's my go-to because it's quality. And then I do like to play with audio. So I think it was between Sumo and 11 Labs has got a new one, and Stable Audio. So those 3 I'm kind of playing around with. So that's me. So thanks for letting me jump in real quick. I got to go.
Yeah.
Awesome. We should, I love Jen's call out though. We should make a newsletter from everybody's top 5. And that's a brilliant use case. So,
well, that's a great time to bring up the newsletter, because our very first newsletter comes out this Sunday. And if you want to join and sign up for that newsletter, all you have to do is go to thedailyAIshow.com, and there's a sign up form on there. That's going out this Sunday. So thank you, Robert, for bringing that up, because it's a great
segue.
Yeah. See,
right.
You ask and we put it out there. So thanks, Robert. I appreciate it. So I will say just really quick, since Robert talked about it, one of them, but he didn't mention the one I like, which is still Udio. That's the audio one. I know I was big and bullish on it. It has only gotten better, in my opinion. Whereas in the past, if I was going to make a song on Udio, like when it first came out, although it was amazing day one, it was like it would clip things, and you were like, oh man, if I could just take that last 5 seconds off, because it was messing with the next generated clip. They've come out since then and made updates to all that. And, I just continue to think that tool is really impressive. I know there's Suno out there and others. I just don't think they're on the level. I keep hearing songs that people say, oh, this is cool. This is a cool song. And I go, yeah, it's not at the level of what I just see. Not even what I'm creating. I'm just saying what's on Udio. If you just go to their top songs on there, they consistently blow me away in the quality, the sound quality of the voices and stuff like that. So it's on my top 5, and I just wanted to throw it out there. But it's not because of a productivity hack. It's literally just because it makes me happy. It's on my top 5 AI tools because I like it. That's it. That's all I got for it. I haven't used any of the songs from it in any production or work or anything at this point. But I definitely see that coming, because there's some really fast ways to take a topic that you want to catch and people to remember. And so if I had a couple of slides and I'm like, I need this to catch, it's like, it's technical and wordy, and I can throw it into Udio and have it on a little bop going along. And it just helps the people I'm trying to teach remember the concept. If I was a teacher, I'd be using this every day to help my kindergartners and my 5-year-olds try to learn a concept about whatever we were teaching that day, colors, right?
Perhaps sometimes there will be an Udio song in the newsletter, and the only way you will know is if you sign up for it.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Got to sign up for the newsletter. We have a lot of people signing up for the newsletter, but we'll get back to that. And we are also, I will just give a quick update. We are at 987 subscribers on YouTube. So if you want to be one of our last 13 and help us get over 13, we would greatly appreciate that. So please subscribe on YouTube and help us reach over that. We've climbed 20 in the last 3 days or 4 days. So we know we're going to be there in the next couple of days, and we appreciate you. Okay, let's get to the last, everybody else's top 5. Carl, what else is on your top 5?
So for me, it would be Respell is number 1 for me, just because I use it. My workflow is a lot of automations, and then a lot of our clients actually use, we implement Respell with Zapier or Make, and then it fires off. So a lot of automated use, saving hundreds of hours each month on that. So that would be 1. And the difference between Respell and something like Zapier or Make is Respell is designed specifically for like it was built around AI, while Zapier Make added AI to it. So there's a lot of interesting features if you want to check it out. The thing that I love to use as a creator that has saved me a lot of time is Adobe Podcast Enhance. So this is where if I film something and I don't get the audio right, or it's outside, I don't have to worry about it. It's about 90% accurate. Sometimes it just doesn't pan out right, but I just drag and drop an audio file in there and it cleans it right up. It sounds as if they're in a studio, sometimes a little too good, but to me that is fantastic. And actually the last one I use is I don't think anybody uses this. It's play.ht. Now it is the competitor to 11 Labs, but I just love the ability in play.ht to tweak the speed of the voice, because in 11 Labs you can't really do that. You can play around more with the tone and intonation, but with play.ht I can decrease the speed, increase the speed actually makes a difference to see if it actually sounds a little bit more real. And I've actually had some clients, we've done the voiceover with play.ht, which is much better than 11 Labs. But yeah, just that would be, those are rounded out my top 5.
Nice.
An interesting one.
Yep.
I haven't heard of play.ht, so that's good. So see, I'm already learning from Jimmy. I didn't know about the, what was it? What is it?
Firecut.
Firecut. I want to say Firefly. Firecut. play.ht. That's a good one. Okay, let's move on. Andy, what else is on your 5? And if you could just recap what we've covered so far.
Yeah. So I like many others, I have numbers of 1 and 2 in this order: Chat GPT, and then Perplexity. My number 3, if I ranked it according to actual use, it would have to be Gemini in Google App Suite. So Gmail, Docs, Sheets, it's all there now. This is just very recent, right? It's only been present on that side panel for a short while, but now, well, because I work in Google, Docs and Sheets and Gmail all the time, Gemini is always there. But that's not on my list of 5 because I don't go there in my mind. So I'm more involved, not in workflow automation as Carl and Brian are, but I'm more in sort of ideation. And one of the tools that's really brilliant out there is gamma.app. If you just have even the simplest idea, you say, here's my idea in one sentence, it's going to generate a presentation as if you've built that product already, and this is the pitch deck for it. Try it just to do any kind of presentation. It's pretty amazing. On the same sort of product development front, there are a bunch of custom GPTs for this purpose, which is to write your product requirements document for something that you want to build. But the sort of the top line tool out there, in my opinion, is called Archie. And Archie has a free level, and you can put in an idea, and it has multiple large language models that have all been trained on the full product development process. So that starts way before coding, but Archie can take you through the whole process. So that's on the PRD front. And then finally, Canva. Canva is an AI-enabled graphic art, system, and I use that, repeatedly to automate the generation of really nice designs, and I do that to assist my wife in some of the marketing and promotional materials for her nonprofit, for example, and so on. That rounds out the top 5.
Canva's on my list too. So I think we've now hit 4 out of my 5 as well. Canva I use literally every week. You guys know I use it for the show. It's where our thumbnails get processed. They don't create the thumbnails. That's okay. So the thumbnails are mostly actually out of meta.ai. That's not one of my top 5, but I do use the tool every week because it'll give me 4 choices. The only downside is it'll only give it to me in square, and I need it in landscape because of thumbnails and so on and so forth. So there's a little bit of issue there. But when I do find a really good square photo that I'm like, this is better than anything else, if I throw that in Canva, one of the AI options in Canva is that it will expand out the photo. It gives you 4 choices of the expansion going left to right, and we'll make it a 16:9. And I will say one of those 4 choices is usually good enough for a thumbnail, or I can hide some of the inconsistencies with the wording. So if you ever see me left justify a word, sometimes I'm trying to hide what's behind it. But Canva, what the point to all this is, Canva has a lot of great AI tools. It has a magic eraser brush that's great. It has a text grab, which is fantastic because it'll grab the text. We know that some of these AI tools don't necessarily always put the right wording. They're getting better, but sometimes there's an extra letter. Canva will allow me to grab any of those texts and do it. You can also take, and you've been able to do this for a while, although people are just now talking about it. I can move the main person in a thumbnail in Canva, and I can slide them left or right, and it will recreate the stuff that's behind that image, that person. So there's often times where I have a really great person and they're pointing or whatever, and it's part of our thumbnail, but I need them to be right justified, and I can grab them with AI and slide them to the right so I can fill in the rest with text and things like that. So I am continuously amazed. Canva just had a huge announcement, and they called it their Glam Up or their Glow Up. They called it their Glow Up. And so there's a whole bunch of new AI features that have come out as well that I'm super excited about. So they're definitely on my top 5 because I use it every week. But I'm just impressed too. I'm just continuously impressed with what Canva has as part of their suite of tools.
It's so underrated because I use it not as much. But first of all, we should have played the their whatever video, their music video.
Yeah,
yes,
let's not do that.
We're doing a review. We're doing a review of Canva next Friday.
Yeah, we'll play that. But it's even before, like, I like how they've kind of just added these features in, but it's so useful, and it just I don't know what to call it, but it just integrates really well with whatever workflow you're doing. I'm not in there as much as I used to be when I used to create a lot of these thumbnails for another show that I used to do. I loved it. And I think like even now, just seeing all the stuff that's in there just makes things a lot easier. And I feel like as not an Adobe power user of, Illustrator or PowerPoint, I feel like so much easier in there. And a lot of, Adobe Photoshop and Illustrators are like kind of snooty about like, I can do more here. I'm like, yeah, you can, but I can get my stuff out faster.
Right.
So, right.
It's an efficiency thing for sure.
Yes.
I agree. I love Adobe products when they're not crashing or causing me harm. Yeah. But like Canva doesn't crash. Canva doesn't crash. There's never been one time. We've now done 220 shows. So I've created 220 different thumbnails using it. And I take, again, the images come from somewhere else. I could try Canva, but I don't think their image creator is at that level yet. But man, I agree with you, Carl, for efficiency, to get 5 shows out the door every single day, probably every Friday, I'm throwing them in Canva to create the shows for the next week.
Hey, Brian, have you used the bulk create function in Canva now?
I have used it before, but I don't currently use it as part of my system, I guess. But yes, I do like the bulk create. In fact, it's probably getting Jumi would probably say the list of thumbnails is now a 200 long thing. I probably need to but it hasn't frozen on that either. So the only other one on my list, and it's a new one because we've just been recently using it more, is Descript. And Descript because of their new Underlord AI feature. And we're sort of short on time, so I will just, instead of sharing my screen, you can put a clip in there. Jimmy and I were just playing around with it this week. So we're trying to get more shorts, YouTube shorts, more TikToks out there to supplement from this show. So one of the things we can do from the show, some more behind the scenes stuff, is that from StreamYard, which we're doing this on, I can just grab my video. So then I put my video into Descript. And what I've just been playing with this week, so this maybe won't be on my list forever, but right now you can do edit for clarity. You can create studio sound like you were talking about, Carl. You can immediately remove filler words. That's something that's kind of already been in Descript. Remove retakes, shorten word gaps. But then it also has stuff like eye contact. Okay, eye contact was creepy. Like it was okay. And NVIDIA had some ones and it was okay like maybe 6 months ago. I just ran it. It's very natural looking. You cannot tell the difference. So you could see the before and after. The eye contact is not. In other words, here's what I'll say. It didn't put eye contact in when I turned my head really far. It just allowed my eyes to look over here. But if I was anywhere close and I'm looking at you guys below my camera, it just moved my eyes up to the camera on it. It's very good. So that's in there
Nice.
as well as green screen and some other things. So that's their new Underlord feature. If you do have Descript, you have to go into the settings and turn it on, kind of like a Google Labs thing. I'm bullish on it. I hope, because I think it's going to be a really great tool for us to use collectively and stuff. So that would round out my top 5. Okay, let's get to everybody else. And who haven't we done? Beth, have we done your 5 yet?
Nope.
Which one?
And I don't think we've done Junmi's either. So Perplexity, Gemini is my number 2, to go into the back end, and use Studio to access and analyze documents that are part of a Google Drive. Like, the integration is just amazing. It also doesn't forget those. It doesn't sunset them the way that ChatGPT does. I can go back. I can update something in a spreadsheet, and I can go back a week later in Gemini in the back end and ask new questions, and it takes the current spreadsheet. So love that. And my third, so Perplexity, Gemini, Mem.ai. I am working with AI knowledge management, self-organized brain space. There are things that are very frustrating about it, but I keep coming back to it. And I like being able to just have the system organize thoughts that I've had and resources that I've found. I've started to use it for the content for the show, and that kind of stuff. And then ChatGPT and Claude were my last ones. Midjourney is also kind of there, but I haven't used it very much lately.
You've used, and if I'm not mistaken, Beth, you've battle tested Mem.ai. I mean, you've used that now for months, right? If I'm not mistaken, for like part of it. Yeah. So like when you say you use a user, this is not something like I was saying with Descript where I'm 5 days into it. So I think that's a really nice call out, because I know that's a tool you've mentioned several times on the show.
And the API is strong, right? So if there's not a feature, and you can send email to it, so I can send anything to save at Mem.ai, and like a newsletter, right? That can then just immediately become a mem. It's something, has a Twitter integration too. So yeah, I'm loving it. Those are my 5.
All right, Jimmy, take us home.
Quickly recap. 1 is Chat GPT. 2 is Perplexity. We went number 3, Firecut. And to round out the last 2, number 4 is Opus Clip. It's a repurposing tool for auto clipping long form into short form. But there's nice little editing features. You can edit by text. You can create different brand templates, so you can keep the look consistent across the board. You can upload or just send them a public YouTube link, and it'll process it all for you. And then finally, number 5 is my office productivity tool, which is Fathom. So Fathom is my AI note taker. I like it. It's great. It's, for the most part, you get all the features for free. The only paid account is when you want to go to Teams. But AI summaries, highlights, you can bookmark things or highlight things on the fly. It'll keep track of how long you're talking and tell you if you're monologuing too much, and then it's got the auto send feature, so you can send a copy of all of the notes and summary to the attendees. So it's been really helpful on that side of things for meetings.
Fathom is probably, I think, one of the top rated tools on FutureTools.io, Matt Wolf's site. So I know there's a lot of people that have really get a lot of value out of Fathom. I haven't used it, but I'm thinking maybe I should definitely check it out. Okay. Well, listen, tomorrow is, what do we have?
I want to shout out to Harpa AI, Cisco. Thanks for recommending it. Great for summarization, automation, web scraping, and primarily for summarization of YouTube. Thanks, Cisco.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for throwing that in there. Okay. So look, we could always recap these tomorrow, because tomorrow is our, what did we just talk about? It's our bi-weekly opportunity to sort of circle back. So we sort of ran through some of these to give us an opportunity to maybe talk about some of these other tools. We'll also be talking about some of our other topics over the last 2 weeks. What was that, Andy? You're holding up the rabbit. You're on mute.
He's muted.
You're on mute.
I'm holding up the rabbit because I actually use this now. It's push to talk, and it saves me the trouble of having to open up my phone, put in my code, go to the menu, open up ChatGPT. Instead, I just push I talk and it talks back to me. So the simple questions that I need to ask as I'm just sitting here at my workstation, Rabbit's helping me out on that.
All right,
So
well,
it's
let's talk
your-
about that more tomorrow. We'll bring that up tomorrow's show because I'll be curious to hear about that. I kind of thought rabbits were now just like paperweights on desks, but so it's kind of cool to hear you saying that it's bringing some value to you. So that's it. Well, like I said, we'll be back next week to do our 2-week wrap up. Next week, we're obviously, we're going to be paying attention to what's going on Monday, but we have shows all week. But we'll definitely be talking on Tuesday about whatever is announced at the Apple Developer Conference. It's going to happen at 1 p.m. Eastern on Monday. So we will talk about it on our live show on Tuesday at 10 Eastern. That's it for today. Don't forget to go to the website, thedailyAIshow.com. Check it out. Sign up for the newsletter. Like I said, first newsletter is coming out this Sunday. And if you're so inclined, help us get over 1,000 on 1,000 subs on YouTube. We greatly appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging out in the comments, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Aloha.